Shirley MacLaine has been a huge movie star for 70 years. She's bright, brave, and always tells the truth, no matter what. But behind her big smile, her fancy style, and her amazing job, there was something her biggest fans always wondered about. The guys who were close to her heart and shared her life. Even though many, many men liked her in her 91 years, only 7 really held her heart in a special, secret way. Some were like a quick, hot fire. Others were tricky relationships that totally changed her life. Some of these men changed her acting job, some changed what she thought about government, and some simply changed how she understood what love really means. She never told anyone their names until right now. At 91 years old, she's not keeping secrets anymore. And when you hear who made her private list, you will finally understand the true story of Shirley MacLaine. You will understand why she became the woman she is now. Strong, fearless, and totally okay with having lived a full and sometimes messy life. Let's begin with the actor who won her heart when she felt the most unsure of herself. Warren Beatty, the love that started her career. Warren Beatty came into Shirley's life in the late 1950s. At that time, she was still trying to figure out her place in a job run mostly by men. He wasn't just an actor. He was like a big wave of energy. He wanted to be successful, was good-looking, cared a lot about his acting, and was absolutely sure he would make movies totally different. Shirley liked how much he wanted things and how he refused to do just okay jobs or not try his best. He had this special feeling, she later said, that made everyone around him feel like they were part of something important. When she was with him, she felt understood in a way the movie business almost never let her feel. They would spend hours and hours talking about movies, looking closely at scenes from old directors, arguing about whether American movies were brave enough to take real chances. Warren would loudly say that Hollywood was sleeping, that it kept making the same safe stories again and again. He believed, really believed, that he and Shirley could change that. They would spend late nights in fancy hotel rooms in Beverly Hills, with movie scripts spread all over the bed. Warren would read the words out loud while Shirley listened, completely amazed by how serious he was. He had this amazing way of making her feel like she was the smartest person there, that her ideas mattered, that her career could be more than just the jobs people gave her. It could be something she controlled. He pushed her to take bigger risks in her movies, to pick jobs that made her work hard, that needed everything she had. Their secret love lasted for almost 2 years. They kept it hidden from the news reporters because they both agreed to. It wasn't just about hugging and kissing. It was about 2 smart people coming together, both trying to change how movies were made. People who worked with them noticed the spark between them on the movie set. The way they seemed to talk without words in a way only they got. Movie bosses started to see it too, and people were talking about putting them in a movie together again. But Warren had already moved on to his next big plan, his next girl to win over, his next big idea. When their relationship ended, it was quiet, without anyone being angry or blaming the other. Warren went on to other girlfriends, other people to impress, always chasing that next amazing movie idea, that next girl star who could be as intense as him. He never really stayed with just one person. Shirley was changed forever, more sure of herself, asking for more from herself and the world around her. She started picking roles more carefully, saying no to scripts that felt too simple or not good enough. She became known for being picky, her refusal to just take what was offered. She never felt bad about it. In interviews, she would talk in a secretive way about a very important boyfriend who taught her how much wanting to be great mattered, who showed her that good art was more important than making a lot of money. In fact, she gives credit to Warren for making her understand that she deserved better jobs, more respect, and the freedom to say no to anything that made her or her art feel less important. That strong feeling of self-worth and clearness about what she was worth would be what made her career special for many years after. Peter Sers, the wildest heart. Peter Sers, the funny British guy, came into her world in the early 1960s. This happened while making a mushy movie she almost doesn't even remember doing. Peter was different from Warren. He was moody. You never knew what he would do next, and wonderfully a little bit crazy. He was famous for his quick jokes, his ability to turn into a character so completely that the people working on the movie sometimes totally forgot his real name. He could walk onto the set as himself and somehow become three different people before they ate lunch. Shirley was hooked by how complex he was, by the smartness and the craziness that seemed to come out of him equally. On the set, he was all about work, careful, demanding, a perfectionist who would film a scene 30 times until it was absolutely perfect. He had standards that scared other actors but inspired Shirley. She watched him work and learned what real professional acting meant. When they were not working, he changed into someone else completely. Fun, sad, and unsure, dying for a real connection beneath all the faces he wore. It was like watching a good person and a bad person in one, except both versions felt real. Both were Peter. Their relationship was wild, but you couldn't stop wanting it. He would bring her flowers at strange times, pink flowers that she loved, then not talk to her for a whole week while he got lost in his creative thoughts, locked in his room writing scripts or making music. She would call him late at night, needing to hear his voice, his jokes, anything to be sure he was still thinking of her. Other actors noticed the up and down between them, the secret looks on set, the late-night talks heard in their trailers, the way he looked at her like she was the only real thing in his broken world. Peter was insecure in ways Warren never was. He needed people to constantly tell him that he was good enough, talented enough, worth loving. Shirley gave him this feeling freely, even when she was tired from the emotional roller coaster. They were together for 3 years, a secret affair happening right in front of everyone, but somehow kept quiet by Hollywood's amazing ability to not see what it didn't want to see. Friends who were close to Shirley begged her to end it, to protect her own mind, but she couldn't leave him. When Peter finally moved on, marrying someone calmer, someone who could give him the stability he needed, someone who was more willing to put her own needs second to his, Shirley felt the loss deeply. But she understood he needed someone who could save him, someone willing to give up their own life to help his. She couldn't do that. She wouldn't do that. No one could truly save him. He had to save himself, and he never did. She would watch his acting jobs from far away, see his movies, hear stories about his health getting worse, his fights continuing. She loved him always, but she couldn't save him. Dean Martin, the charming rogue. Dean Martin, the singer who became an actor, was something totally different. Dean was older than Shirley by about 12 years, and he carried that age with amazing charm. He was a part of the Rat Pack, part of Frank Sinatra's special group of friends. A man who made getting a girl look like an art form he'd been perfecting for years. When they met at a party in Palm Springs in the middle of the 1960s, Shirley was immediately won over by how easygoing he was and how much he truly cared about her thoughts. He asked her questions, real questions about her dreams and fears, and actually listened to her answers. He didn't just talk about himself like so many actors did. Dean didn't treat her like a prize or another girl he won over, something to put on his list of girls. He treated her like an equal. Smart, clever, someone worth really listening to, someone worth the risk. She felt seen by him in a way she hadn't before. Their secret love was short but very strong, lasting only about 8 months. The way he won her over was gentle but couldn't be stopped. Like watching the sun set, it was going to happen and it was beautiful. Dean was seeing many women at once, a situation Shirley found harder and harder to accept. She would see his name with other women in the gossip papers and feel a sick twist in her stomach, feel the sharp pain of jealousy that she wasn't happy about but couldn't stop. But during those 8 months, he showed her something very important, that a man could be nice without being stuck up, could be sure of himself without being mean. Dean taught her about having fun, about letting go of being in control, about how great a good laugh is at 2:00 in the morning when nothing makes sense. But somehow everything did. He taught her how to live. They would laugh until their sides hurt about things that weren't even that funny, about how silly Hollywood and fame were and the strange bubble they lived inside. He would sing to her, not the fancy versions for the crowds, not the famous singer part of him, but rough, private songs in empty hotel rooms with only her as his audience. His voice sounded different when he sang just for her, more sad and unsure, more true. When it ended because Shirley finally demanded something Dean couldn't give. Only her and a real promise. The promise that she would be the only woman in his heart. He couldn't do it. His personality just didn't allow for that kind of deep love for one person. He loved a little bit for everyone, not too deeply. Beautifully, but never truly with all his heart. She walked away without being angry, just with a sad but sweet understanding that sometimes the people we love can't give us what we need. Not because they don't want to, but because they simply can't. Jack Lemmon, the sensitive genius. Jack Lemmon, the talented actor and piano player, came into her life during one of her most exciting acting times. Jack was famous for his great acting. He could make the audience laugh and cry in the same movie scene, sometimes in the same minute. Shirley respected him a lot as an artist. They met at a movie festival in the late 1960s and quickly found out they both loved movies, music, and pushing the rules of what was okay in regular Hollywood. Their relationship was smart and emotional before they ever touched. They would go to late-night jazz shows together in smoky clubs, talking about famous writers, arguing about whether life copies art or if art copies life. Jack would play the piano while Shirley watched, completely fascinated by the way his fingers moved across the keys with the same care he used in his acting. He could get totally lost in the music, and she loved watching him in those times. Jack was married at the time, a fact that made everything tricky in ways neither of them expected. The guilt was always there, hiding just under the surface of every perfect moment they shared. He was stuck in a marriage that had become cold, that felt more like a duty than a loving connection. He looked to Shirley for the spark he'd lost, for the feeling of being truly alive again. She gave it to him, but not without guilt. They were together for about 2 years, meeting in secret at hotels with fake names and borrowed apartments from friends who understood the situation. Jack wanted to leave his wife and build a life with Shirley. He talked about it all the time, with so much emotion, planning futures that felt real in the darkness of hotel rooms but impossible in the daylight. But she knew better. She understood that his marriage, even though it was broken, was his responsibility to deal with. She also understood that the man he became while cheating wasn't the man she truly loved. That man, the good one, the one with strong values, couldn't exist if he abandoned his duties. So she ended it. It was one of the hardest decisions of her life, but it was also the most grown-up. She protected Jack from himself. Even though it hurt her a lot, she never told him the real reason. She let him believe she'd simply stopped feeling the same way. Robert Mitchum, the dark mystery. Robert Mitchum, the tough actor with the tired eyes, represented a different kind of old Hollywood romance. Robert was already a legend when they met on a movie set in 1970. A man whose mysterious cool was as much about his personal problems as his acting talent. He had been everything. A handsome heartbreaker, a rebel, a man who'd faced getting arrested for drugs and people making fun of him in public and came out somehow stronger. He had a dangerous edge that Warren didn't have, a risky quality that both pulled in and scared Shirley. He seemed to not care what anyone thought, seemed almost disgusted by the movie star system that forced so many others to be the same. He'd lived a tougher life than most men, loved tougher, fought tougher. Their secret love was full of passion and short. just a few months of secret moments and a strong physical connection. Robert was a drinker, a person who couldn't stay in one place, a man who seemed unable to stay in one city or with one woman for very long. He had a desire to travel that couldn't be satisfied, a hunger that couldn't be filled. Shirley understood that she would never be the most important thing to him, that he could never be the most important thing to her. But for a short time, they could be everything to each other. But for a little while, she let herself get swept up in his wildness. He showed her a part of life she'd been too careful to try. Doing things without planning, taking risks, the excitement of not knowing what would happen next, of living without a safety net. They went to secret parties in hidden rich houses in Hollywood Hills, drove through the desert at 3:00 in the morning with the radio turned up loud, made love with an urgency that felt almost desperate, like they were racing against time itself. He was gentle with her in times she didn't expect and rough in others, and she never knew which Robert she would find. When it ended because Shirley finally told herself the truth that she couldn't build anything real with a man so determined to ruin himself. She cared about him very much, but caring wasn't enough. She needed more. She needed him to be present and steady, and someone who wanted to be present. Robert couldn't offer that. He was too busy disappearing into his own mind. Yves Montand, the European sophistication. Yves Montand, the French actor and singer, brought a totally different feeling into her life. Yves was charming in a very European way, cultured, interested in politics, passionate about art and movies and big ideas. They met at a party in Paris in 1972 and were drawn to each other right away, as if recognizing something similar in each other's spirits. Yves talked about movies with a beautiful flow that matched Shirley's own passion perfectly. He introduced her to European films she'd never seen, to filmmakers from Eastern Europe and cold places, to new ways of thinking about her job that went beyond Hollywood's rules about making money. He believed movies were a political statement, that art couldn't be separated from big ideas about the world. Shirley, who had always cared about politics, found this idea exciting. Their relationship lasted about 18 months and was surprisingly calm compared to her other secret loves. There was less mess with Yves, less desperation, more peace. Yves wanted to openly talk about their relationship, to bring Shirley into his life, but Shirley knew that would cause problems neither of them could handle. His wife was very famous in French society. The scandal would have been huge in both places. So they met secretly when she was in Europe, had a long-distance relationship that was as much a friendship as a romance. They would spend days together in her Paris apartment, listening to music, cooking, talking about politics and film and life and art. Yves would read her poems. She would tell him about her spiritual journeys, her interest in quiet thinking and Asian ideas, things that others in Hollywood found weird. He never judged her for it. When they finally ended things, they stayed close friends, keeping in touch across the ocean for years. Yves understood in a way the American men never quite could, that sometimes the greatest love stories aren't the ones that end in marriage or public promises. Sometimes they're simply the ones that change you in a deep way. Roman Polanski, the complicated artist. And finally, there was Roman Polanski, the director who wanted to be more than just that. Roman was brilliant but broken, a man carrying past hurts that showed up as obsessive love and a demand for perfect art. They met through friends in Hollywood in 1974, and Roman became immediately focused on Shirley as a person to inspire him and a possible lead actress for his next movie. He saw her not as a person, but as a blank page for his artistic vision. Their relationship was short, only a few months, but it was strong and in the end troubling. Roman wanted to own her creatively, to change her into his artistic vision. He was controlling in ways the other men had never been. He would direct her even in private moments, telling her how to sit, how to move, how to speak, finding fault with her every move as if she were an actress in one of his movies rather than his girlfriend. For the first time in a secret love, Shirley felt less important rather than lifted up. She felt smaller, not bigger. She began to doubt herself in ways she never had before. This was not what love should feel like. She ended it when she realized that his love was really just a different way of controlling, just another sign of his need to be in charge. Roman was very sad, argued that she was throwing away greatness for safety, that she was too afraid to give herself completely to his vision, but Shirley knew better. She had learned through years of mistakes that real love lifts you up. It doesn't make you feel small. Real love makes you feel more alive, not less. Real love respects your freedom to be yourself. She walked away from Roman knowing she'd made the right choice, even though she understood his pain. Looking back at 91 years of life, Shirley MacLaine doesn't feel bad about any of these connections. Each man taught her something important about herself, about what she would and wouldn't put up with, about her own power, about the difference between strong feelings and real love, between excitement and calmness. She's been married to Steve Parker for decades, a marriage that has lasted through all of this, through her secret loves and his own complicated life. It's a partnership that works exactly because they both understand that love has many forms, that a promise doesn't need to mean only each other, that a good life is one that is lived honestly. They made a deal early on. She could live her life fully without stopping herself or her desires. He could do the same. It was unusual, but it worked. She's raised kids, traveled the world, pushed for political ideas she believed in, spoken out against war and unfairness, and never apologized for being exactly who she is. She's read books about coming back to life and Asian philosophy and lives she lived before. She's danced on tables and thought quietly in spiritual centers and changed herself many times. She's been unapologetic about her sex life, her goals, her spirituality, things that made other Hollywood women uncomfortable. She made her own path. The 7 men on her list were a part of her trip, not the place she was going. They shaped her, challenged her, loved her in the ways they knew how, and in the end taught her that the greatest love story she would ever have is the one she has with herself. She is her own greatest love story, and she knows it. Now we want to hear from you. Which of these boyfriends surprised you the most? Do you think Shirley was being honest or just remembering the good old days? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe, because more Hollywood legends are coming soon.